The key to creating a great map is to ensure that it's meaningful and intuitive for the people that rely on it. There are all kinds of maps. For example, if you need to get from point A to point B, you need a road map. If you're fighting wildfires, you need a completely different type of map. And, as you're about to find out, people that live in remote communities need unique maps to help them make important decisions. Which is why research scientist Mary Sanborn-Berry is engaging with local residents as she and her team are mapping the bedrock of the Kivalliq region.
I'm Mary Sanborn-Berry, and I'm a research scientist. This activity, it's called the Community Bedrock Mapping Project of the Kivalliq Corridor. And so the Kivalliq is an area on the western shore of Hudson Bay. And the area in particular that we visited was between the communities of Whale Cove and Arviat. And we went there in order to engage interested residents to come out into the field with us and to learn about a little bit more about bedrock mapping, what rocks tell us about the evolution of the earth, and also to get them a little bit more familiar with any potential mineral resources or carving stone resources that might be on the land in the area around their communities. One of our mandates is to make sure that there's an adequate level of knowledge about the geology of different regions. And this area hadn't been looked at since the late 1960s. And so the only maps that were available were uncolored geological maps that were more than 50 years old. And so it was time to go in with a more modern approach and get more updated information about this area so that any kind of land use decisions were based on modern knowledge, not 1960s vintage. Understanding about the processes that form rocks has changed significantly with the advent of plate tectonics, and also the techniques used to analyze the geochemistry of rocks and to get ages for the rocks has drastically changed. So there's a lot of different data sets that now can be acquired to support understanding of the bedrock geology. This colored map is a product of all of the existing information that existed before we went in 2023, as well as it contains all the locations that we stopped at with residents of Whale Cove and Arviat and collected new information, samples, and data. And so what this represents is a preliminary, new, colored geological map for the region that's going to take the place of these older, uncolored geological maps. And we're also going to produce this map in a way that it's going to be much more useful to non-specialists, like the residents of Whale Cove and Arviat and any other Inuit communities, because we want this map to be useful to the people that live in the region. And so the legend of the map uses plain language. There's photos accompanying the legend so that people that read the map can understand what the colors mean, what kind of rocks may be there. Those photos will have little camera icons that will be situated around the map so they know exactly where each of those photos was on the map. And then there's also some general diagrams that show the general atmosphere of how you form volcanic rocks and how you form sedimentary rocks and what are metamorphic rocks. And so what we're hoping is that this map will be an almost Geology 101 for anybody interested in going out and looking at rocks in Nunavut. And I will take this map up into the communities. We're going to meet with the Whale Cove residents and the Arviat residents. We're going to show them this preliminary map, get their feedback on what they like about it, and if they're kind of happy with the way it's evolving. And we'll also seek their approval to come back and do another round of mapping. All of those findings will be incorporated into the map, and then we'll be able to generate a map with their help that would be used in this area by whoever's interested. When we're out on the land, they've been to a lot of the places that we're flying to in a helicopter, but it's really insightful to hear that they spend several days on an ATV getting out to these areas, and a lot of times their focus is more on wildlife or fishing as opposed to geology. They also really appreciate knowing, next time I go to the falls, now I know that's because there's a very resistant dike that's cutting some siltstones, and that's why the falls are there. So it puts a whole new level of knowledge on the rocks that they are used to traveling over. One of the ways that we can determine the age of a rock is by taking a sample that's of one specific homogeneous unit that we're interested in dating, taking what we call a geochron, stands for geochronology, sample. They are taking a measurement of the orientation of a plane on that rock that represents bedding. And so they're taking the horizontal azimuth and the dip of that bedding, and that's a typical measurement that we'll take anywhere we stop. So that's part of the training, and that's part of what our field assistants can do for us while I'm doing other things on an outcrop. There is a proposal to build a 1,200-kilometer long hydrofiber link corridor between Gillam, Manitoba, up through the Kavalik region to the community of Baker Lake. And that corridor would bring electricity to 5 different Inuit communities that are within this region. And so the Kivalliq Inuit Association had as its priority to learn as much as they could about the Kavalik corridor in terms of the geology, the surficial deposits. A lot of times it's major infrastructure developments like that when they're going through, it means that there are more boots on the ground and access to a region. And it's usually the time when there is quite a bit of prospecting. Things are encountered, rusty rocks are encountered, metallic minerals are encountered. So we really wanted to raise that point and make sure that they knew a little bit more about prospecting and prospecting tools, so they could be the people that gain from the increased access. We had a session of workshops. We talked about the technique of gold panning. We all watched a video together, and then we gave everybody an opportunity to do some gold panning from some sand that actually had gold in it. So it was very exciting to be able to know that you were doing it correctly and actually see visible gold. My favorite part about the job is being out on the land, examining rocks and all the little hints that are preserved in the rocks that tell us about the land 2,700 million years ago when those rocks formed. And that long ago, there's no life record, and humans or otherwise, but we can really still learn an awful lot about what was going on by picking up those clues from the rocks. So it's pretty cool.
Geological mapping isn't just about charts and data. It's about unraveling history and gaining a better understanding of the land we live on. For example, ever wonder about the impacts that the Ice Age had on the geology of northern Labrador? It's fascinating. Check out the video on screen right now to see how our experts are using their detective skills to map the paths of these once great ice sheets. And don't forget to do all the YouTube things, like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for our next video.